The Knicks made two major trades this offseason. They traded for Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns. However, many people have wondered if the Knicks are going to make another major trade. Recently, Knicks owner James Dolan answered that question and confirmed the Knicks' future trade plans. He also called the current Knicks starter the final piece. We're going to break down all of these latest reports today. But before we get started, about 52% of you watching this video right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're enjoying the content, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button because it could really support all the great content that we're creating for you. And now, let's get started. James Dolan confirms the Knicks' future trade plans. Over the last few months, the Knicks have been linked to a number of different superstars. Names like Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and so many other players. That has led many people in New York to believe that potentially the Knicks are going to make another major trade happen. The best person to answer this question has to be the Knicks owner. And recently, James Dolan was a guest on the Roommate Show podcast, and he confirmed if the Knicks will be making any further moves in the future. Shout out to the Roommate Show podcast for giving us the following information. James Dolan confirms that the Knicks are committed to this roster for the long term. Committed to this current roster for the long term. He says exactly. First off, we have a team that's going to be together for a while. Leon has done a great job. He's lined up the contracts and everything else. This isn't our only season. We are going to play a bunch of seasons together. James Dolan continues here, and he explains why the Knicks are likely going to keep this roster together and not make any more major moves. According to Dolan, you take a look at teams like Boston that have played together. They get to draw off of something that they've built over that period of time. And I think for this team, that's really the challenge today, going into the playoffs, is to build that inside of the team, something that we can draw on. I think in order to do that, the first thing that you have to have is a belief that you can win any game, that you can win the championship. You really have to believe that. For everyone that was hoping that the Knicks would trade Mikal Bridges or trade Karl Anthony Towns, we can shut all of that down right now. We have the Knicks owner and James Dolan confirming that this roster will stay together for many, many seasons. That means another major trade is likely not going to happen. The Knicks really don't have the assets to make another major trade, but if you thought that maybe potentially in the offseason, the Knicks might flip OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Mitchell Robinson for another superstar, you can stop all of that talk right now. James Dolan has confirmed that this roster, this current Knicks team, will be staying together for many, many seasons. A bunch of seasons, to quote the owner. And why? He said it. They are following the blueprint of the Boston Celtics. I'm not talking about drafting certain players or certain talent. I am talking about putting in the time. The Boston Celtics, they didn't win overnight. It took them many, many years to turn into this team, the team that won the championship. And that's all James Dolan is saying here. He is saying we have the team necessary to win a championship. The only thing we have to do is put it all together. And once we do that, and we have that time put in, and we build that chemistry, we will then be able to win a championship as well, too. That is why he's saying what he's saying. And that's why he doesn't want the Knicks to make another major trade happen, because he understands it. If you make another trade after another trade after another trade, then you still have to work in that chemistry time. That means until you put in that time for chemistry, your team is always going to look one step behind these other teams, these top teams, the teams that have stayed together worked on their game and worked on their chemistry. Those teams are at the top right now. And if the Knicks want to get there, they have to put in that time. Sometimes fans want that right away. They don't want to wait. But I think a lot of us understand in order to get there, you have to work to get there. And sometimes failure is part of that process. I don't want the Knicks to fail. I want them to win and succeed each and every time. But I'm not naive. I understand that in the NBA, even though you're good, there's always going to be that team that's just a little bit better, that has your number on any given night. That's why New York has to turn into that team that can beat all of these teams. The way to do that is to build that chemistry. And if you had some type of lost hope that potentially the Knicks would trade Karl-Anthony Towns this offseason, let's put that to bed as well, too. Not only did James Dolan say that this roster is going to stay together for many, many years, he also called Karl-Anthony Towns the final piece to this team. Shout out to New York Basketball on the app X for giving us the following information. The Roommate Show had the following discussion. One of the hosts said, "Where do we sit relative to the plan in terms of the Knicks and their roster?" Dolan says the following: "We're kind of there. Cat, the last piece. You think we're missing anything?" He asked that to Jalen Brunson. Here was Brunson's response: "We have the pieces. We just need to put it together. Gotta get closer and more chemistry." Dolan said, "And if we could avoid injuries as well, too." All of that is absolutely true. James Dolan called Cat the final piece to the team, giving him even more backing as a player that is here for the long term and likely not going to get traded by this team. I've said it in a number of videos, but let me say it again now that the captain has said it and the owner has said it. Chemistry and time. I've said that this team has the pieces on it, the personnel, to be considered a championship contender. However, we are not playing like a championship contender. That is the issue. Chemistry, a big part of that. Trying to mesh together, a big part of that. Also, the team has dealt with a number of injuries and players are coming back. Knicks owner James Dolan even mentioned Mitchell Robinson as somebody that the Knicks have to work back into the rotation, further hurting their chemistry. According to Dolan, he states, with Mitch coming in, there's still a lot that can be done. I expect to see maybe some more alley-oops, but it changes the defense. So how are we going to rework the defense? And I think this team and everybody on it focuses on those things. It just give them time, and I think it will happen. It's clear the Knicks owner has faith in this roster that Leon Rose has put together. He believes that if you give this roster time, if you allow them to build that chemistry, they can become a team that will win an NBA championship. I believe that as well. And I think most of you, if you're watching this video and you really truly ask yourself that question, I think you'll believe it as well too. I don't think that the Knicks have an issue per se in terms with talent. I think we have the right talent. Could we add some more players here or there to help our bench? Absolutely. But overall, we have the roster necessary to win a championship. The only issue is consistency and play. If we can make those two things better, this Knicks team can be all the way up there with those top teams in the league. It's going to take a little bit of time. I'm patient, though. I'm not rushing to get there. What I do want to see, though, is getting better from game to game, not making the same mistakes, not falling into the same issues. Unfortunately, throughout the whole season, that's what's been happening. We haven't seen consistency on that end. If we see a mistake a few games ago, give it a couple of games, we'll see that mistake again. Or give it one game, and we'll see that mistake again. That's the issue. We have to learn from our mistakes and get better overall as a team. If that begins to happen, slowly, we're going to evolve into that championship contender. It's going to take time. It's going to take chemistry. We're going to have to put that work in. But now we know this is who we have going into the postseason each and every year for the next few seasons. Right now, the core, That's not changing. That means Mikal, he's staying. OG, he's staying. Towns, he's staying. Jalen Brunson, he's staying. This entire roster is likely staying together with a few moves here or there to help bolster this team, help the bench, and make sure we're a stronger team. Maybe even a taller team moving forward, because that's the depth pieces that the Knicks need right now. In terms of star power, going after another superstar, I don't think that's going to happen for a number of reasons. Not only because of what James Dolan said here, also, we don't have the assets, we don't have the cap space, and other teams, if a superstar were to be available, would likely be able to outbid the Knicks for any star that was available that the Knicks wanted to add to the team. That's why when you look at the landscape of everything, you look at the NBA, all of these players linked to the Knicks. I believe there's a reason they are linked to the Knicks. One, they probably want to come to New York. Two, the Knicks are attractive again. And three, if you're listing players to any destination, New York is almost always up there. And that's because the city, the fan base, wanting to bring a championship to New York, especially this team in New York, all of that is very attractive nowadays. That's why you see New York at the top of the list and not Brooklyn. Because even though New York is attractive, winning is attractive too. And now the Knicks give many free agents, many superstars, the opportunity to do both. But what about you guys? What do you think about Knicks owner James Dolan basically confirming that the Knicks are not going to be making major trades in the future, that this team is going to be together for the long term? Let me know how you feel about that in the comment section below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans, take care of yourself, your families, and each other. Peace and love.